With the 2025 NCAA baseball season coming to a close, many heads will be turned towards the apex of the season and the Men's College World Series. However, potentially lost within the competitions of that week are the awards ceremony, and specifically the Golden Spikes Award, given to the most prestigious player of that season both on and off the field. This year, the hopeful recipients of the Golden Spikes Award are shortstops Vahiva Alloy out of Arkansas and Alex Lodis out of Florida State, as well as lefty starter Liam Doyle out of Tennessee. With all three of them projected to go fairly high in the upcoming Major League Baseball draft in July, this got me thinking, how often does winning the Golden Spikes Award correlate to having a successful Major League career? And should teams prioritize these players? In order to answer that question, I looked at the careers of the last 24 winners ranging all the way back to the year 2000, and put them on a tier list based on their Major League success. Hopefully, this video will showcase a general trend on how college success translates to Major League success, but before we get on to the video, could you guys please hit the like and subscribe button? Currently, only 3% of people who watch my videos are subscribed, so if y'all do, not only would it help me grow my channel, but also would encourage me to create more videos like this one for you guys. And without further ado, let's get on to the video. In the high school video, we started off with a productive multi-time All-Star and a player who fell just short in Hall of Fame contention in Adrian Gonzalez. And while I promise you that this list of players will consist of a ton of productive All-Stars and Hall of Fame candidates, we are not going to get started off on that same strong footnote as in the high school video, as the Golden Spikes Award winner for the year 2000 was South Carolina's own Kip Bouknight, a 4-year starter for them, who set school records for them in innings pitched, wins, strikeouts, and starts. After being solid in his first 2 seasons, he really pitched great in 2000 to win the award, boasting a 17-1 record with a 2.81 ERA in 19 starts, including 4 complete games and 143 strikeouts in 144 innings. However, while statistically great, his stuff was just not Major League caliber, with a fastball that sat in the high 80s and a changeup that, while dominating college hitters, failed to impress against Major League caliber at-bats. Surprisingly, after winning the award, due to these factors, he was only drafted in the 20th round by the A's, and after returning to college for his senior year, those same factors, combined with his now older status as a prospect at 22 years old, led him to being drafted in the 13th round. His career for a 13th round pick was actually not that terrible. He pitched for another 9 seasons, 8 of them professionally as both a starter and reliever, making it all the way up to AAA. However, he just never ended up making the major leagues, so I have to put his career in F tier for that reason, showcasing how collegiate success does not always translate linearly to major league success. For 2001, boasting a 15-1 record with a 1.69 ERA in 18 starts, Mark Prior would become the 3rd straight pitcher to win the Golden Spikes Award, and unlike Bouknight, was widely considered a very good MLB-ready prospect, being selected 2nd overall by the Chicago Cubs in the 2001 draft as a 20-year-old starter. Prior would then go on to blaze through the minor leagues, making his major league debut the next season after only 9 career professional starts in AA and AAA, and he would not disappoint either, posting an ERA of 3.32 and finishing 7th in Rookie of the Year voting as a 21-year-old starter. However, Prior's 2002 season suddenly put him on a Hall of Fame trajectory. At only 22 years old, Prior would pitch 211 innings to a 2.43 ERA, striking out 245 batters and leading the Cubs to a division title alongside fellow breakout Kerry Wood as co-aces of Chicago. Prior would become an All-Star for the first time, finish 9th in MVP voting, and 3rd in the Cy Young voting. In the playoffs, he would outduel Greg Maddux by pitching a complete game and only giving up 1 run in the NLDS, and he would have 2 very strong starts in the NLCS against the Marlins. However, this heavy workload at such a young age would ultimately prove disastrous for the future. He would end up missing 2 months of the next season with an Achilles and shoulder injury, and after laboring through many elbow and shoulder injuries, major structural damage to his shoulder was revealed after the 2006 season, effectively ending his major league career. He would attempt comebacks as a starter and eventually as a reliever for the next 7 seasons in the minors and in indie ball, but his last career inning was pitched in 2006. Prior's career remains one of the biggest what-ifs in all of baseball. To achieve such success at such a young age was almost unprecedented up to that point, and he may have been a Hall of Famer, if not one of the greatest Cubs of all time if he remained healthy. However, the lack of a career longevity forces me to put him in C tier. Breaking up the run on pitchers in 2002 was Clemson's Khalil Greene, who posted a prolific season in his senior year as a shortstop, batting .470, .552, .877 for a 1.429 OPS and 27 home runs in 71 games. As a shortstop who also provided defensive value, Greene provided enough intriguing prospect upside even considering his older age for a draftee at 22 years old, and the Padres saw enough for it to select him with the 13th overall selection in the 2002 draft. Greene would quickly make the majors as well, earning time late into the 2003 season and becoming a full-time starter in 2004, where he would finish second in Rookie of the Year voting. However, that was arguably his best season. He was an average offensive bat for the next 3 seasons, with good power but not great contact numbers, but he suffered a quick decline and missed extended time after punching a door because he struck out. Altogether, Greene hit 90 home runs across 7 seasons and was a decent starter. It seems unfair to place his career next to Pryor's, but he was solid enough to compete for a couple of seasons and to be placed in C tier. Setting the record for batting average throughout a career, Rickie Weeks' best season would earn him the Golden Spikes Award in 2003, batting .500, .619, .987 for a 1.606 OPS and 16 home runs in 50 games. With elite bat-to-ball skills, the Brewers would select Weeks second overall in the 2003 MLB draft, which would begin a long career as a major leaguer. Weeks would earn consistent playing time in 2005 as a 22-year-old, where the bat was still a little bit raw. However, across his 11-year career for Milwaukee, his bat would slowly come along, and he would be one of the better hitting second basemen for a stint in his career, earning an All-Star appearance in 2011. However, poor defensive metrics prevented him from ascending into truly elite status, and when the bat started to slow down partially due to injuries, he was a borderline liability on the field. His Brewers tenure ended unceremoniously in 2014, where he would play as a utility bat for the next 3 seasons for the Mariners, D-backs, and Rays. Altogether, Weeks played in 14 Major League seasons, really impressive especially considering he was a good bat for a lot of them. However, the lack of a true standout value defensively and a sharp fall-off forces me to put his career in C tier. Pitching to a 1.63 ERA in 19 starts, Jered Weaver out of Long Beach State won the award in his junior season in 2004. Even though he didn't have overwhelming velocity, his large frame at 6'7" and deep pitch mix gave the Angels enough confidence that he could be a long-term starter, selecting him with the 12th overall pick in 2004. Following in the footsteps of many other players on this list, Weaver would ascend through the minor leagues and make his debut in 2006 at only 23 years old, where he would impress with an 11-1 record and a 2.56 ERA, finishing 5th in Rookie of the Year voting. For the next 3 seasons, Weaver would be solid for the Angels, but after that began one of the better runs for a starter in Angels history. Across the next 5 seasons, Weaver would post 3 All-Star appearances, multiple top Cy Young finishes, and even some down-ballot MVP votes, all with an ERA under 3. If he continued this type of production into his mid to late 30s, he could have become someone who could even draw Hall of Fame consideration. But his harsh fall-off after 2014 that saw his velocity diminish even more than it already has, puts his career in B tier. In what was admittedly a down year in 2005, Nebraska's Alex Gordon would win the award, batting .372, .518, .715 for a 1.233 OPS and 19 home runs in 72 games. Gordon was seen as a plus bat, especially power-wise, and the Royals selected him second overall in the 2005 MLB draft. And after hitting 29 home runs in AA in 2006, Gordon would become a full-time starter in 2007, where he would begin his 14-year Major League career, all with Kansas City. Throughout his career, he was a decent bat. The elite power never truly materialized, but at his peak, he was a 20-homer guy. However, his value came from his defense. Moving to the outfield in 2010, Gordon would begin a run in which he won 8 Gold Gloves over the course of his career. Truly Hall of Fame caliber defense, especially considering Kauffman's vast outfield. For a Royals mid-2010s team that was built on speed, base running, and defense, Gordon was truly one of the focal points of that style of play. However, following that Royals run, Gordon's offensive game regressed significantly, and although he retired to much fanfare given his long tenure, it was clear that change needed to be made in the outfield. Altogether, with 8 Gold Gloves and 3 All-Star appearances, he was a productive enough player for sure, but the lack of a truly elite run of success from an offensive perspective puts him in B tier for me. Although if you were to put him in A tier, I wouldn't really argue that much. Effectively wild in his junior year, Washington's Tim Lincecum struck out 199 batters and walked 63 in 125 innings to a 1.94 ERA. Even though he was only 5'11 and 170 pounds, his unorthodox delivery generated significant enough torque for him to deliver explosive stuff. and seeing the potential he had as a top-of-the-line pitcher, even past his size, the Giants drafted him 10th overall in the 2006 MLB draft. After making his debut in 2007, he would fully break out in 2008, beginning one of the more dominant runs by a starter in the 21st century. He would win back-to-back Cy Youngs in 2008 and 2009, and would be a 4-time All-Star and play a key role in the Giants' 2010 World Series, although he also pitched for the 2012 and 2014 World Series teams as well, becoming a 3-time champion. Overall, his run from 2008 to 2011 was something to behold. He struck out nearly 1,000 batters with an ERA under 3 and looked to be on Hall of Fame trajectory. However, from 2012 onwards, he was just never the same. Although he pitched 2 no-hitters against the Padres, a mixture of injuries due to his unorthodox delivery and a downtick in his stuff led to a fast decline. And for the rest of his career, he was below replacement level with an ERA in the mid-4s. At 31, his body had basically given up on him. His hips had degenerated throughout his career, and he could no longer throw with the durability to be a consistent pitching option for a ball club. However, his peak was truly elite, and I'm comfortable placing his career in A tier. David Price is surprisingly Vanderbilt's only ever Golden Spikes Award winner, earning it in 2007 after pitching to a 2.63 ERA with 194 strikeouts and only 133 innings. Coming from the left-hand side, Price was seen as a quintessential ace-type pitching prospect, and was selected by the Rays first overall in the 2007 draft. After getting his feet wet at the major league level in both 2008 and 2009, Price would establish himself as the ace for the Rays in 2010, throwing 208 innings to a 2.72 ERA and becoming an All-Star. And for the rest of his Rays career, he was everything that they hoped for when they drafted him first overall, becoming a 4-time All-Star, winning the Cy Young Award in 2012, and overall became the most valuable pitcher in Rays franchise history, even to this day. However, seeing a lackluster roster around him in 2014, the Rays decided to trade their ace to the Tigers for a package that included Drew Smyly and Willie Adames. He helped lead the Tigers to a division title in 2014 and was an All-Star once again in 2015 before he was traded to the Blue Jays in a contract year for a package that included Matthew Boyd and Daniel Norris, where he helped them win the division in 2015 before joining the division rival Red Sox on a 7-year, $217 million deal. And for the Red Sox, Price was solid. For the next 4 seasons, he would post an ERA in the mid to high 3s when healthy, including playing a huge role on the 2018 championship-winning team. However, as he got older, his time pitching became increasingly rare. Wanting to get out from the rest of that deal, he was sent to LA as part of the infamous Mookie Betts deal, where, after opting out of the 2020 season, would spend the rest of his career as a spot starter and long reliever. Altogether, while the end of his career squashes any Hall of Fame chances, Price was solid enough in his overall career that includes a Cy Young, ERA title, strikeout title, and 5 All-Star appearances, which lands him squarely in A tier. FSU's own Buster Posey won the Golden Spikes Award in 2008, becoming the first catcher on this list to do so by batting .463, .566, .879 for a 1.445 OPS and 26 home runs in 68 games, with very good defense behind the plate. With these numbers, Posey was selected 5th overall by San Francisco and would fully earn consistent playing time 2 years later, where he quickly established himself as a superstar in the league, winning Rookie of the Year and finishing 11th in MVP voting. For his entire Giants career, spanning 12 seasons, Posey was remarkably consistent. What's more, his peak was also incredible as well. Following a shortened 2011 season due to a collision at home plate which created the Buster Posey rule, Posey came back with a vengeance in his age 25 season, slashing .336, .408, .549 with 24 home runs to become a first-time All-Star, Silver Slugger, and MVP. While no season would top that, Posey was an All-Star caliber player for the rest of his illustrious career, ending as a 7-time All-Star, 5-time Silver Slugger, and 3 times World Series champion, with Posey playing in nearly every game of their 3 postseason runs. After opting out of the 2020 season, Posey retired on top in the 2021 season, orchestrating a magnificent 107-win Giants season and claiming his last All-Star and Silver Slugger. His work is not over with the Giants either, as he is now the president of baseball operations for San Fran. A surefire Hall of Famer when his ballot comes up in 2027, his career easily goes in S tier. With one of the more dominant careers of all time in college, Stephen Strasburg brought home the Golden Spikes Award in his junior season in 2009, pitching to a 1.32 ERA with 195 strikeouts and only 105 innings. With his production throughout college, he was deemed as the consensus best prospect in the draft, and the Nationals selected him number 1 overall in that year's draft. and around a year later, he made his much-anticipated Major League debut, striking out 14 batters in 7 innings of 2-run ball, beginning his talented, albeit frustrating Major League career. He would set a record for most strikeouts through 3 starts to begin a Major League career, but also missed time with a shoulder injury and suffered a torn UCL that took him out for the rest of the 2010 season and a lot of the 2011 season as well. But he was dominant when he came back. In 2012, Strasburg stayed healthy enough and was one of the best pitchers in the league. But an innings limit placed on him as he continued to recover from Tommy John controversially left him off the playoff roster for that season, where the Strasburg-less Nationals would get bounced after just 5 games. However, despite an innings limit placed on him to preserve his long-term health, Strasburg would only top 159 innings pitched in 2012 4 more times throughout his 10 more seasons left as a major leaguer. When healthy though, he was dominant and a co-ace besides Max Scherzer. And for the Nationals, the exclamation point of his career came in 2019, where he threw 209 innings to a 3.32 ERA and, more importantly, threw 36 more dazzling innings in the playoffs to lead the Nationals to their first ever World Series title, winning World Series MVP in the process. However, Strasburg gave basically everything he had that season, and he would only throw 31 more innings throughout the rest of his career, as thoracic outlet syndrome effectively ended his pitching career. Even with injuries, Strasburg pitched nearly 1,500 innings with an ERA in the low 3s. Even without the counting stats of a typical elite player, he was dominant enough for me to put in A tier. Staying with Nationals draftees, Bryce Harper won the Golden Spikes Award in 2010 for Southern Nevada, becoming the only player on this list to be in both this list and my top high school players list. I extensively covered Harper's career in the previous video, so I'm primarily going to talk about Harper's college days. Harper is the only player on this list to play for the National Junior College Athletic Association, and in the league that he was in, they actually used wooden bats, which made what Harper did even more impressive as he slashed .443, .526, .987 with 31 home runs in just 66 games, nearly tripling the previous school record of 12. For Harper to do all of this at just 17 years old against pitchers in their 20s with all the spotlight on him is simply incredible. And of course, the rest is history. For the Nationals and Phillies, Harper has been a 2-time MVP, 8-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger, and a Rookie of the Year. He's an easy S tier, just as he was on my high school list. While throughout Trevor Bauer's collegiate career he was looked at as the 1B to Garrett Cole's 1A, it was Bauer who was the pitcher to take home UCLA's first ever Golden Spikes Award, pitching to a 1.25 ERA with 203 strikeouts in 136 innings. However, despite better statistical numbers, Cole would end up going first overall to the Pirates, and Bauer would go third overall to the Diamondbacks, where he would ultimately end up pitching just over 16 innings for them at the major league level. Partially due to a rift between Bauer and the Diamondbacks organization, he would end up being traded to Cleveland after his rookie season as part of a 3-team deal that included Shin-Soo Choo and Didi Gregorius. Now in Cleveland, he would spend the majority of his 2013 season fixing his delivery, and would emerge as a full-time starter for Cleveland in 2014, where he would be a serviceable middle-of-the-rotation starter for the next 4 seasons. However, in 2017, he would see the strikeout rate go up, forecasting an upcoming breakout in 2018, where he would emerge as a top-of-the-line starter for Cleveland, throwing 175 innings to a 2.21 ERA and finishing 5th in the Cy Young voting and emerging as a first-time All-Star. However, following that season, just like with the D-backs, his relationship with the club disintegrated. He was traded midseason to the Reds in a 3-team deal that included Yasiel Puig, and while he struggled in his first half season with the Reds, he thrived in the 60-game COVID season, posting a 1.73 ERA with 100 strikeouts to best Yu Darvish and Jacob deGrom in the 2020 NL Cy Young race. He would parlay this success into a 3-year, $102 million deal with the Dodgers, where he would be a top-of-the-line starter for them before getting placed on administrative leave and subsequently suspended for off-the-field issues. He was designated for assignment by the Dodgers and, despite his suspension being over, he has not pitched a professional inning in Major League Baseball ever since, pitching for Japan and Mexico instead. Off-the-field controversies aside, Bauer does not have any long-term longevity or peak to be placed very high on this tier list. But with 2 All-Star appearances and a Cy Young Award, I'll put his career in B tier. Posting a .322, .394, .669 slash line for Florida in his junior season, standout catcher Mike Zunino becomes the second backstop on this list to win the award. And with a decorated offensive collegiate career, the power-hitting catcher was happily selected by the Mariners 3rd overall in the 2012 MLB draft. And after slugging his way through the minor leagues, he joined Seattle midway in 2013, where he showed glimpses but overall did not make enough consistent contact to be a good contributor offensively. And unfortunately, a good chunk of his Mariners career was just like that, with good power numbers but high strikeout rates and limited offensive abilities. When he posted viable enough batting averages, and I'm talking like in the mid to low 200s here, he was great, but more often than not, he was batting below the Mendoza line. After a frustrating Mariners career, Seattle would trade the soon-to-be free agent to the Rays in a 5-player deal, where he would be an all-star in 2021, seeing the power reach a career high with 33 home runs, but would otherwise be a negative for the Rays for the rest of his career. During the 2023 season, the rare position player thoracic outlet syndrome effectively ended both his season and the rest of his career. While he was below replacement level for a lot of his career, he did end up staying for a pretty long while, and also got an all-star appearance, which is a lot more than many other players can say. So I'll put his career in C tier. With 31 home runs in 62 games and a slugging percentage over 800, San Diego's Kris Bryant was the recipient of the Golden Spikes Award in 2013. Deemed as the safest prospect in the entire draft due to a combination of good instincts at third base, good contact abilities, and emerging power, he went second overall to the Chicago Cubs after the Astros took Mark Appel first. And like many other players on this list, he got off to a very strong start, cruising through the minor leagues to become one of the top prospects in the entire game. Kris Bryant would then go on to be a full-time Major League starter in his second professional season, where he would dominate with 26 home runs and an OPS over 850 to win the Rookie of the Year award. However, the 2016 season would be his magnum opus. He took a huge step forward offensively, hitting 39 home runs with an OPS over 930 this time, winning the NL MVP in just his second Major League season. At this point, the sky was the limit for Bryant, and he was rightfully on Hall of Fame track, if not first ballot. However, that career just never fully materialized. After another good season in 2017 where he would finish 7th in MVP voting, Bryant's offensive abilities would take a step back in 2018, and what's more, he would hit the injured list with shoulder inflammation. He would get back on track at least offensively in 2019 to get his third All-Star nod, but just couldn't adjust in 2020, and with the Cubs struggling in his contract year, was traded to the Giants in 2021. After that season, where he helped the Giants win the NL West crown after their magical season, he left and joined the division rival Rockies as they looked to rebrand their team. However, that just never came to be. Bryant has suffered a litany of injuries throughout his Rockies tenure, never reaching above 80 games played in a single season, and what's more, has not been productive there when on the field, and his contract now looks like an albatross. Nonetheless, despite the harsh fall-off, I think that Bryant's peak is good enough for him to be placed in A tier. Deemed as the best two-way baseball player in college in 2014, A.J. Reed hit .336, .476, .735 with 23 home runs as a hitter, and went 12-2 with a 2.09 ERA and 71 strikeouts in 112 innings as a starter. With clear talent on both sides of the ball but without a dominating tool, he actually slipped to the Astros in the second round of that year's draft, where he initially impressed, slugging 34 home runs in the 2015 minor league season. Reed would get off to another hot start in AAA to begin the 2016 season and earn Major League time, but could just never emulate those same power and contact numbers at the Major League level, and he was released eventually by the Astros. And after 1 year with the White Sox, he retired before the 2020 season at age 26. Reed reminds us that even minor league promise does not always translate to Major League success, but at least he made it, and that deserves our very first D tier. With some elite contact numbers coupled with a .717 slugging percentage with 20 home runs for Arkansas, Andrew Benintendi took home the award in 2015 en route to being drafted 7th overall to the Red Sox in that very same year. At only 21 years old, he would make his Major League debut in 2016 and impress, with a batting average in the high 290s. He would continue his track to stardom in 2017, where he put up great numbers offensively and was productive defensively, and probably would have won the Rookie of the Year award if it weren't for Judge's historic season. At only 23 years old, he would be a key cog for a championship-winning 2018 team, providing value both offensively and clutch plays defensively in both the regular and postseason. However, maybe in search for more power, Benintendi's contact numbers took a dip in 2019, and after an abysmal injury-filled 2020 season, he was dumped to the Royals in a 3-team trade. For the Royals, he rebounded nicely, and after 1.5 seasons, he was traded during the 2022 MLB trade deadline to the Yankees as one of the better contact bats on the open market. And while he would see those numbers dip in New York, he was able to parlay those good seasons in Kansas City into a 5-year, $75 million deal with the White Sox, where he has admittedly disappointed heavily considering the state of the White Sox. Deemed as a future star for Boston, Benintendi has surprisingly followed in many of these players' careers in a second-half fall-off. But as a consistent everyday player for a lot of teams, his career goes in C tier. For Mercer, Kyle Lewis hit .395, .535, .731 with 20 home runs in 61 games to win the award and be drafted 11th overall by the Mariners as a bat-first center fielder. And like many other players on this list, he got off to a very strong start. He hit a home run in his first career game in 2019, translating into a Rookie of the Year award in the shortened 2020 season. However, just as it looked like Seattle had their star in the outfield, a right meniscus tear took him out for most of the 2021 season. And in 2022, a concussion similarly limited him as he looked to bounce back. Having been usurped by Julio Rodriguez in the outfield, the Mariners traded the bounce-back candidate to the Diamondbacks, where he played in only 16 games for them and was limited with an illness and hasn't played since 2023. I'm surprised another team hasn't taken a chance on him. He suffered 3 separate freak injuries, and while they are debilitating, he's at least worth it as a depth option somewhere. However, the lack of any career longevity for now, he goes in D tier. Another elite two-way player won the award in 2017, as Brendan McKay hit 18 home runs with an OPS over 1.1, coupled with a 2.56 ERA and 146 strikeouts in only 109 innings. However, unlike Reed, the Rays would end up placing a huge emphasis on McKay, and would select him 4th overall in the 2017 MLB draft with an emphasis on him as a two-way player. And at first, it looked to go exactly as how the Rays intended, as he became a top prospect in all of baseball as a two-way player and dominated as a pitcher specifically, but he also had good power numbers as a hitter as well to add on top of that. He earned Major League time in 2019, but logged only 10 at-bats and 49 innings and hasn't played since. He currently resides in AA now as a pitcher only, and although only at 28 years old, his career isn't over yet. For now, it goes in D tier with limited impact. Next up in 2018 is a rare sophomore winner. Cal's own Andrew Vaughn won the award through slashing a magnificent .402, .531, .819 for a 1.35 OPS and 23 home runs in 54 games. Despite a small step back offensively in 2019, he was still drafted 3rd overall in that year's draft by the White Sox in 2019, where he emerged as a top prospect for them and debuted in 2021. However, unlike many other players on this list who got off to strong starts only to flame out in the end, Vaughn never got going at the major league level. While a good power bat, Vaughn struggled with strikeouts and generated consistent contact. Additionally, he doesn't provide enough value defensively to compensate for mediocre offense at a premium position. Having a career worst season in 2025, he was sent down to AAA. So while he made the major leagues, he's been one of the bigger disappointments on this entire list, and his career goes in D tier. Finally, a breath of fresh air in terms of Major League production, Adley Rutschman won the Golden Spikes Award in 2019 with a magical season slashing .411, .575, .751 for a 1.326 OPS from the catcher position for Oregon State, en route to being drafted 1st overall by the Orioles in 2019. Almost from the get-go, Rutschman was considered as one of, if not the best prospect in all of baseball, with elite contact numbers as a switch hitter in tandem with great defense from the catcher position. With one of the more hyped debuts in Orioles history, Rutschman made his debut in 2022 and was the orchestrator to an Orioles turnaround to playoff contention, arguably the heart and soul of this team. He would end up finishing 2nd Rookie of the Year voting despite only playing 113 games and looked to be the franchise cornerstone for a decade to come. In 2023, he was pretty much the everyday catcher for the 101-win Orioles and finished 9th in MVP voting, along with an All-Star and Silver Slugger. And in 2024, while he took a step back offensively, he got another All-Star appearance. And yet, while 2025 has been his worst season yet, seeing the defense slip up a tad bit and the offensive numbers being nowhere near typical for their star catcher, I still have confidence in Adley as an elite catching option. But, fearing his career following a harsh decline like many other players on this list, I'll put him in B tier for now just to be safe, with the prospect to shoot up to A or even S tier if he showcases more of his early career surges. So, following a 2020 season in which there was no winner as there was no real college season due to the pandemic, I'm going to place the next 4 Golden Spikes Award winners in the too early to tell tier, as their careers simply have not begun in earnest yet for me to make a proper ranking. Kevin Cobbs had a dominant season, leading the NCAA Division I in ERA with a .9 mark and 89 2/3 innings. So even though the stuff wasn't dominant, the stats were jaw-dropping enough to win the award, and he would go on to be selected 99th overall by the Padres, where as a reliever, he currently is in AAA as a 28-year-old. Ivan Melendez won the award for Texas in his junior year in 2022, where he hit .387 with 32 home runs, a school record, and went on to be drafted 43rd overall by the Diamondbacks, where he currently resides at AA, still putting up nice power numbers. Dylan Cruz is the only member of this list to make the major leagues. As a collegiate player, he bested fellow teammate Paul Skeens to win the award by batting .426 with 18 home runs en route to being drafted second overall by the Nationals. He shot through the minor leagues and made his debut in 2024, and now looks to be one of the budding stars on a young Nats team. Lastly, in 2024, Charlie Condon broke the NCAA BB-Core home run record with 37 home runs to win the award for Georgia, parlaying that into being drafted third overall, where he now currently resides in High A after suffering a wrist injury at the beginning of the 2025 season. Altogether, looking at the list of players who have won the award and then had professional major league careers, a few glaring trends stick out, which can impact how they are perceived in terms of professional scouting. For one, regardless of position, a lot of them shot through the minor leagues relatively fast, amplifying the mantra of them being relatively safe prospects to get in the draft, as they become major league viable options after only just a year or two of professional minor league at-bats or innings pitched. Secondly, and perhaps more perplexingly, are the second half fall-offs of many of these players. It may just be a small sample size, but regardless of position, from Kris Bryant to Mark Prior to Steven Strasburg, many of these players could not live up to the monstrous hype built during the first couple of years of their career. For pitching, it kind of makes sense. The years of high-leverage innings in college are taxing on the arm as it nears its early to mid-30s, but for position players, I don't get it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and without further ado, I will see you guys in the next one. God bless.